Welcome, everyone. Before we get started, I want to hear from you. What is your biggest academic concern for your scholar right now? Maybe it's reading comprehension. Maybe you've noticed that your scholar has started losing confidence in math. Maybe homework has become frustrating for everyone in the house. Or maybe you choose D because you know something isn't clicking quite yet, but you're not sure what it is. Drop A, B, C, or D in the chat. If you choose D, you are definitely in the right place tonight. Sometimes the hardest part of supporting our children is figuring out what the actual problem is. So I'll give you about 10 seconds to drop A, B, C, or D in the chat to let me know your biggest academic concern right now. All right, I see a few being dropped in the chat, a lot of reading comprehension and math. All right, and I do see someone that isn't sure yet. No problem at all. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Behind the Grades, how to tell what academic support your child needs. For anyone joining Humble for the first time, hi, I'm Rakaya Lee. I've spent the last 10 years working alongside scholars, families, and schools. And one question I hear from families in so many different ways is how do I know what my child actually needs? Because sometimes you can tell when something isn't clicking, but you don't actually know why. Sometimes the grade is low, but you're not sure what's causing it. And sometimes the grades look pretty fine, but something still doesn't seem right. So that's why we're here, and that's what we're going to unpack tonight. My goal isn't for you to leave here analyzing every assignment or worrying about every single grade. That is not the purpose of this at all. I want you to leave better equipped to recognize the patterns, ask better questions, and make more informed decisions about your scholar's academic support. Before we get into all of that, I want to talk to you about the kind of space we're creating together tonight. Before we jump in, I want to take a moment to talk about the kind of space we're creating tonight. Parent University is meant to be a place where families learn, ask questions, and grow together. So, throughout tonight's conversation, I want you to feel comfortable participating. If I say something and you have a question, put it in the chat. If something connects that with what you're experiencing right now, share it in the chat. This is a space for us to learn and grow. If you see another parent sharing an experience that looks completely different from yours, that is okay too. Every child is different and every family is navigating something different. I also want you to participate in whatever way feels comfortable for you. You can turn your camera on, come off mute, use the chat, or just simply listen and reflect throughout tonight's conversation. There's no expectation that you already have all the answers. That's why we're here tonight. So we're going to stay curious, respect one another's experiences, and learn together. And with that, let me show you where we are headed tonight. We are going to start with what you're already seeing at home. Then we're going to look at what might actually be behind those concerns. From there, I'll show you how to gather information from your child, their work, and their teacher. Then I'll talk about how to determine what type of support actually matches the need, which is very important. And then we're going to make sure that you leave here with something you can actually do this week. So we're not just talking about grades tonight. We're learning how to make better decisions with the information those grades actually will give us. One quick thing before we jump in, I encourage you to stay until the very end, not only because we are going to be bringing everything together into a simple framework, but I'm also going to give you a behind the scenes look at something we've been building specifically for families just like you. So if you ever wish you had a place to ask those type of questions throughout the school year, get practical resources, and learn alongside other parents, I think you're going to really be excited about what I have to show you at the end. So just stick with me, and I'll share that before we wrap up. All right, let's get into it, y'all. So I want to start with one big question. Are your scholars' grades telling the whole story? My answer is no. No, no, and no. That doesn't mean that grades aren't important. Grades are data, but most of the time, grades tell us what happened. And then they don't always tell us why it happened. And that distinction matters a lot. All right, let's go to the next slide. In 1 second, I haven't take. Let me see. So let's say your child comes home with a 72. What does that actually tell us? We know the outcome, but we don't know the reason. Maybe they misunderstood the content. Maybe they rushed. Did they misread the directions? Did they maybe know the material but then struggle on the test? Or are they making or missing a foundational skill from a previous grade? Or did they simply fail to complete part of the assignment? Those are different problems, completely different problems. And if the problems are different, the solution should be different too. And I don't want us to only pay attention when grades are low. A student can be earning A's and B's and still need support. Maybe they need an adult beside them every night to complete the work. Maybe they memorize information long enough for Friday's test but can't explain it 2 weeks later. Or maybe they avoid anything challenging. Or maybe the grades look strong but the independence does not. So tonight isn't about deciding whether your scholar has good grades or bad grades. It's about understanding them as a learner. This is one of the most important questions I want you to take away tonight. What can my scholar do independently? Can they read something and explain it without me pulling every answer out of them? Can they solve the problem without reminding me or me reminding them of every step? Can they start the assignment without someone sitting beside them? Can they recognize that they're confused and then ask for help? And with all of this, independence gives us information that the grade alone will not. So as we've seen, every child starts the school year differently. Some are excited, some are nervous, some are a little bit of both. The question becomes, what can you do as parents? The good news is that you can't control everything, or the good news is that you don't have to control everything that your scholar is going through. So what you might not see, what you may see may not be the problem. I want to give you 4 key areas that we're going to think about tonight. A skill issue, a performance issue, a routine or organization issue, or a confidence issue. Now, these can overlap, and the goal is not to diagnose your child. The goal is to help you ask better questions about what you're seeing. A skill gap means the student hasn't mastered something they need in order to complete the work they're expected to do now. And sometimes the struggle you see is not the original gap at all. Let's take reading comprehension, for example. You might say, my child reads, but they don't understand anything. But is comprehension actually the issue? Or is the child using so much effort decoding that they don't have enough mental energy left to process the actual meaning? Or maybe vocabulary is weak. Or maybe they understand literal information, but struggle with inferences. And I see that almost always. That's why we have to get more specific about what you mean by struggling with reading. The same thing happens in math. Let's say your child is struggling with fractions. We could practice fractions every night, but then we realize their multiplication fluency is weak. Now we've uncovered something beneath the visible problem. Or maybe they can follow the procedure for fractions, but don't really understand number relationships. So I can see academic difficulty. My first question isn't always, how do we practice this more? It's now, what does the child actually understand? Then we have the performance. So the child who can explain everything at home and then get a 65 on the test. Or they give you a strong verbal answer, but their written response is incomplete. Maybe they rush. Maybe they make careless mistakes. We see that often as well. Or they may just struggle under pressure. Or maybe they know the content but have difficulty communicating what they know. That child may not need the entire lesson retaught. They may need strategies for demonstrating what they already know. And this is the big one. Not every academic problem requires an academic solution. I'll say that for the people in the back. Not every academic problem requires an academic solution. Your child may understand everything in class and still have 6 missing assignments. Maybe the work is completed but never submitted. Maybe they start the homework too late. Or maybe they don't know when it's due or what's due. Or maybe they're trying to manage several classes without a clear system. That is not necessarily a math or reading problem. It may be a routine problem. So more worksheets won't fix a system problem. Now think about the language your scholar uses. Do they normally say, I'm bad at math, I hate reading, I'm stupid, or I can't do this? Sometimes adults immediately hear laziness or lack of motivation. But I want you to get curious. You can't do it, won't do it, or are you just afraid to try? Those are different things, very different things. Repeated struggle can eventually become a confidence problem. And once a child starts believing they can't succeed, they may stop trying long enough for us to see what they're actually capable of. So now think back to your answer you chose in the beginning. Reading comprehension might be a skill gap, but it could also involve vocabulary, confidence, attention, or a difficulty expressing an answer. Math confidence could be connected to a real skill gap, or your scholar might understand the math and simply be afraid of getting it wrong. Homework frustration might be content, or it might be routine. And if you chose I'm not sure, that simply means we need more information, and that's why we look behind the grades. One bad assignment is a moment. One bad assignment is a moment. One rough week can be a moment, especially early in the school year. What I want you to look for is a pattern. Is it repeated? Does the same challenge happen over and over? Is it consistent? Are you seeing it across multiple assignments? Is it persistent? Does it continue even after normal support and practice? And is it impactful? Is it starting to affect grades, independence, confidence, and your child's attitude towards school? Patterns tell us much more than isolated moments. Some of the most valuable information won't show up in the gradebook. Pay attention to what happens around the work. Does your scholar avoid a certain subject? Does a 20-minute assignment regularly take them 2 hours? Can they only complete work if someone stays right beside them? Are you seeing intense frustration? What do they say about themselves? All of that is information. Behavior is information. Instead of only responding to the behavior, start asking what might be behind it. For families concerned about reading comprehension, I want you to pay attention to this distinction. Can your child read the words? And can your child understand, explain, and think about what they read? Those are not the same thing. Maybe they read fluently but can't identify the main idea. Maybe they answer the questions but can't provide the evidence. Maybe they understand simple text but struggle when vocabulary becomes more academic. Or maybe they know what happened but cannot explain why it happened. Instead of saying my child struggles with comprehension, start identifying where comprehension breaks down. For math, one of my favorite questions is, can they explain why? Not just what answer did you get. Can they explain why strategies work? Can they tell whether the answer makes sense? Can they use the skill when the problem looks different from the example? A student can memorize a procedure for sure and still have weak conceptual understanding. Sometimes that's why confidence begins to fall as math becomes more complex. Now we move beyond observing to investigating. Before deciding what your child needs, just gather information. Look at the actual work, the report cards, the assessments, the comments from teachers, missing assignments, homework, the grade book. And don't just look at the number. Look at the mistakes. Are they random? Is the same type of mistake happening again and again? Your goal is to understand what story all of the information is telling together. And then talk to your scholar, but ask questions that will actually give you the information. Instead of saying, how was school? Fine. What'd you learn today? Nothing. Try, what felt easy today? Or what felt confusing? What took you the longest? Show me something you learned, because there's no way you sat in a school building all that time and learned absolutely nothing. You can learn behavior from people watching. You can learn a new system or routine in class. You can learn a new word from your friends. Have them show you what they learned. Can you explain how you got this answer? Was there anything you wanted to ask your teacher today but didn't? You're not going to interrogate them. You're just going to learn how your child is experiencing learning. And every once in a while, give your scholar enough space to show you what they actually do independently. Parents help because you care. But sometimes you help too much that we lose sight of what your child can do without you. If you give one step, if I give you one step, remind you of step 2, explain step 3, check the whole assignment before you submit it, I may not have an accurate picture of your mastery. Support your scholar, but leave enough room to observe, please. Then take what you're seeing at home and compare it to what the teacher is seeing. Instead of asking, is my child doing okay? You can ask questions like, what skills has my child mastered? Where are you seeing difficulty? Is the concern accuracy, comprehension, completion, or independence? Is my child meeting grade level expectations? What scholars or what patterns are you noticing? What support is already being provided? All of those are specific questions that usually lead to more useful answers. At home, you see things that the teacher may never ever see. You see frustration, how long homework takes, the self-talk, the routines. The teacher just sees something different. They may see independent work, participation, the assessment, how your scholar responds to instruction. Neither perspective is complete alone. We need both, which is what a real school and family partnership may look like. So here's a framework I want you to use whenever something doesn't look right. First, you notice. What are you seeing? Then you gather. What does the information or evidence show? Then you ask, what does my child say? What does the teacher see? And then support. What response actually matches the need? And last but not least, you monitor. Is the support that you're providing actually working? Because if you put support in place, you should eventually see something change. When do we start thinking seriously about additional support? When the pattern continues. When your scholar consistently needs help more than expected to complete an assignment independently. When the gap keeps showing up. When the support already happens at school isn't closing the gap. When academic frustration begins affecting confidence. When your scholar needs more targeted instruction or more practice than what they're currently receiving. All of that, I want you to remember that you don't have to wait until your child is failing. Early support can prevent small gaps from becoming bigger ones. This is why the answer cannot always be tutoring. If there's a skill gap, targeted instruction may absolutely be appropriate. If the issue is performance, maybe the student needs strategy. If it's routine, maybe they need structure. If it's confidence, they need smaller wins and opportunities to experience success again. And sometimes it might be a combination, truly. The key is to understand the problem before choosing the solution. I also want you to rethink what academic support is supposed to accomplish. Support isn't the end goal. Independence is. So sometimes students need more time, more practice, a different explanation, a smaller environment, a safe place to ask a question they didn't want to ask in front of the class. Good support should eventually help the child need less support. So we're moving from I can't do this without you to I know what to do next. I don't want you to leave here tonight with a giant to-do list. So here's your challenge. Observe one thing. Maybe it's homework, maybe it's reading or math confidence. So you're going to observe that one thing. Then you're going to review one thing. Maybe it's an assignment, a test, or the grade book. Then you're going to ask one better question. Ask your scholar or their teacher something that helps you better understand what's happening behind the grade. That's literally it. Observe one thing, review one thing, and ask one better question. Better information leads to better decisions. So now I want to bring us back to where we started. At the beginning, you chose reading comprehension, math confidence, homework frustration, or I'm not sure yet. Now we've worked through this framework. Do you have a better idea of where your child may be behind? Go ahead and type your answer in the chat.